New Zealanders are an inventive lot. We rank 6th in the World Creativity Index, and we're also 6th in the Economist Productivity Index. But we're only 19th in lodging international patents. Only 22% of our local patents get converted internationally, compared to Singapore's 81%, Finland's 58%, and Denmark and Ireland's 42%. There seems to be a huge disparity between what we New Zealanders consider to be good ideas and our ability to scale them and take them abroad. The question is why? Anecdotes about Kiwis' ability to make something clever out of number 8 wire abound. We grow up hearing stories about Rutherford splitting the atom, Hamilton's jet boat, Murdoch's disposable syringe, A.J. Hackett's bungee, Richard Pearce's flying machine, and Burt Munro's world's fastest Indian. And more recently, we've seen the Martin jetpack, Sir Ray Avery's life pod, and Grant Ryan's Yike bike. Then there are innovations like women's suffrage, the 40-hour week and Pavlova. And couple them with the invention of the egg beater, the referee's whistle, the thermet and the electric fence, have all become part of Kiwi ingenuity mythology that we're brought up with. But assumptions based on historic cultural myths can be dangerous. If the message they leave is no longer relevant, they can make us lazy. So I've interviewed 4 people who are well qualified to shed light on how Kiwi ingenuity can find its place in this contemporary world of rapid and disruptive change. My journey starts at the Auckland home of Kevin Roberts, Global Chief Executive of advertising giant Saatchi & Saatchi, one of the world's most creative organisations with 140 offices in 76 countries. Then I travelled to Matamata to interview George Hickton, a director of Hobbiton and a former Chief Executive of Tourism New Zealand, where he was the architect of the iconic 100% Pure campaign. At the Auckland headquarters of Les Mills International, I interviewed CEO Philip Mills, who's built a global fitness empire by combining his 2 passions, exercise and music. And I spoke to Louise Webster, CEO of the Innovation Council, who's developed a unique overview of our myriad small to medium enterprises.
I think the first thing is defining creativity must be, beyond the realms of most people. I mean, Jobs talked about it. He was ahead of his time. Jobs said that creativity is just connecting stuff. I think creativity is getting to the future first. So that's what creativity results in, right? You see something and you think about it and you look at it and you go, wow, that's a new way of doing that. That's a new way of solving this problem. It's a faster way of getting there.
When you're developing a new product or coming up with some ideas or solutions for a new product, or whether you're in a studio as a creative person doing graphic design, the process is very similar, and it's always a part of digging deep and giving a piece of yourself to make it really good.
When I see a creative person, I see someone who can provide something that I can't, and that they're thinking in they're looking at it in a completely different way.
There are so many things that we'd like to do, but a big part of creativity is deciding what not to do. Because if you chase 2 rabbits, catch none sort of thing, you try to do everything, then you'll fail. We've got to really do the things that we are capable of doing within our human and financial resource capabilities, the things that we are going to have a chance of succeeding with.
Creativity in business solves a problem. Great creativity in business comes from somebody defining in one line a clear business problem. In art, there are no definitions, right? I think that's the fundamental difference. Business creativity usually solves a problem, sometimes before you even know that problem exists. Art is not problem related at all, it's opportunity focused. When you look at creativity in art, or you listen to the Beatles for the first time, or you listen to Bob Dylan in the 60s, or When He Goes Electric, or whatever, what were these people doing? They were getting to the future first. And that's what I look for. Is this progressive? Is it future focused? Is it really fast? And does it have a consumer at the heart?
It has to be centred in about how it's going to make your business better. Creativity is born in the gap between a manager's resources and their goals. And no better example, in my view, than the Japanese motor industry, the American motor industry, who should have been able to build the best car in the world because they had all the resources. The Japanese did it because they had less resources, and so that they started to think much more carefully about what they were doing. So with minimal resources, they outpaced somebody who clearly should have been well ahead of the game.
The first thing you got to figure out, is there a gap in the market? But then you've got to figure out, is there a market in the gap? And that's how I evaluate creativity. So the first thing, you feel intuitively, It's impossible to manage creative people. They're unmanageable, so don't even start with that. What you have to do is inspire them and lead them and take care of them, but you cannot manage them. So you give creative people freedom within a framework, but otherwise they become roadkill, right? But they've got to become part of that framework setting themselves. So the difference to me between management and leadership is management is about doing things right, and leadership's about doing the right things. And with creative people, you've got to inspire them to do the right things. They may or may not do them right, and it doesn't matter. We've got other people who can fix that.
You're dealing with creative people. The choreographers who are making that stuff up, often they're quite special people. They often have a lot of demons that are driving them, and managing them can be quite an art form. You really, they can require special attention. Often they're quite emotional people, and you've got to give them a lot of love and a lot of support.
In equal parts, you have to give them responsibility, learning, recognition, and joy. Give people responsibility before they're ready. Give them lots of learning, a framework to fail fast, learn fast, fix fast. Give them recognition, which, we all need recognition, and then give them joy.
If you can guide them, if you can get them to give the answer themselves, that's going to be a good thing.
Came up recently, I was doing a management thing, and someone said to me, okay, what would you do next in this circumstance? I said, you're not going to like the answer, but it's hope and trust. There has to come a point where you actually trust the people you pay to do the job, and you're not going to second guess them. And I've seen that happen the other way so often, that people just want to sort of manage it. I have a skill, it's holding on to it. In other words, keeping it going and actually building it into the business, because that's a different skill, but allowing the creativity to come in because it excites people, it gets the organisation enthusiastic. The biggest management tool for creativity is risk. You have to punt, and you have to punt your career on it. And I can recall 100% Pure was like that. I remember looking at it and going, shit, this is going to be hard. this really, what we're going to get, it'll polarise people. But that's what I want for the country. I can be passionate about that, because I think we're not there, but we should be aiming to make this country better. And I can see externally how people look at it.
It's really about people implementing new ideas to solve problems and create value. And that create value piece is really, really important. It's the whole team of people around them that have actually made it happen. And it is difficult to recognise those people as a team. And one of the biggest challenges for entrepreneurs is to do that, because quite often they feel that because it's their idea and was their personal vision, that they are the true creators and should get all the reward. But the reality is they wouldn't have been able to make it happen without those other people, without those other skills.
You learn to be confident in an organisation's capacity. There must be someone there that knows what they're doing better than you. Has to be. And my argument is that they've been doing it for years. This is where the knowledge base is. How can we actually release it? I'll go back to district courts. The time frame for court hearings have been going out and out and out for decades. So we said we're actually going to reduce it by 10% in the first year, and we beat that. Now, again, really had no idea other than saying to the team, you must know how to do this. You've been doing it for years. Surely you know your business well enough to improve it. They said, of course we do. We just need the environment. We need your support. I said, right, I'll give you cover. I'm going to use that term. I will give you cover. I think I can get away with a lot more than most people here, because, they won't fire me that quickly. So I'll give you the umbrella cover. I'll stop head office imploding on you. You get out and start delivering the results. And they came up with all sorts of amazing ways to do this, which was quite surprising. So, and when you get that going, you're starting to almost get these little incubators going in your business of good ideas. But without that environment, no chance really.
To be relevant in a commercial sense and to touch a lot of people, which I think is a core value for us. We really do want to change the world. We do want to touch a lot of people's lives and change the World Health System and things like that. So to be commercially relevant, it's got to sell. And so for us, we are driven by that. We're driven by creating things which are going to sell. For our company to grow and to do more good in the world, we've got to be commercially successful. And we all accept that that goes hand in hand with our greater mission, with our greater purpose. We don't think that it's a money-hungry thing. We're not all about the money. We are primarily about the cause. But we know that we've got to be commercially successful to be successful with driving our cause.
When it comes down to how your business can be creative in a way that makes an impact, you have to have a degree of staff empowerment, that they feel, okay, I can take a risk, I won't get beaten up for it, and I understand the business wants to get better at what it's doing, and I can help. And so I found that to be one of the more powerful tools.
We started as a small New Zealand company. We did not have the ability to start our own head offices in different countries. We had to go out and find independent distributors. We had to convince them that we had a good product, so we put a lot of effort into that. We had great creative people, New Zealand film and TV people and New Zealand advertising industry people who packaged our product in a way that we could sell it just to get distributors. That was the first big part of the job for us, was to package our product and convince them in other countries that we had something that they could make $1 out of, or that they would want to be involved with.
And I've said time and time again in the public sector, senior managers come in and the first thing they do is restructure. And it's the worst thing they can possibly do, because it just totally destabilises the organisation and creates a whole area of insecurity. And the moment you get that, you do not get people thinking differently. They're not prepared to. It's all about, well, keep my head down. And you see this massive loss of trust. And to get the creativity going at the front line of a business and get real ingenuity there, you need trust. Think about the income support service. We had a benefit processing time of 5 weeks on average. That was our target, and we even weren't meeting that. We managed over a period of 3 years to reduce that to 24 hours. And when we started to talk about the change we wanted to make, the inevitable questions came up, how are we going to do it? And my argument was that I think I can see the first week, but I can't see beyond that. But with your help, I'm sure we're going to find opportunities there. So that's, and I painted the picture of, wouldn't it be good if we could do that? Just imagine if you could turn around and say, instead of this problem that's going on at the moment where people are going, how long does it take? You'd be able to say, it'll be done tomorrow.
We are supplying an average of 4 of our classes to 16,000 gyms in 105 countries. We have 100,000 certified teachers actively teaching those classes around the world. We have 1,000 master trainers who are responsible for the initial and ongoing training of those teachers, and we have about 1,500 staff at our head office and our distribution offices around the world who are leading that operation. So we put a lot of energy into being a fun company to work with and into some of the tribal ritual and the cultural ritual, the things that we did to kind of go viral inside their organisations.
You're looking at creativity to help your business improve and do things better, that do your normal business better. And that's what I say, using the whole power of competitiveness is the way you use your resources. But so many businesses don't actually do that by looking at what I would call the sort of nexus between the staff member and the customer. It's all on high. It's a classic example. I rang Vodafone yesterday to sort something out on the phone, and it told me that the wait time was 30 to 40 minutes. There's a phone company that wants me to ring them that tells me that. And it takes me back, how often do people who are leading companies actually get themselves genuinely into that position? And it's very, very rare.
I came here in 1989 and loved New Zealand. I thought, this New Zealand stuff, mate, there must be something over there. My sister moved over here and she said, yeah, there is something over here. People are practical, pragmatic, they're not bureaucratic, they want to do new stuff, they want to grow. They don't seem to be very scared.
We've been growing up with what I call a general management mentality. We are the old story that, you know, we can fix anything. That, I think, is probably not a fair description, because having spent my formative management years working for the Ford Motor Company, I saw what rigidity in management can do, and also understood that even though we're working in a much smaller environment than some of the big car plants in Detroit and places like that, our opportunity to gain a breadth of experience and knowledge was far greater than most of my peers, and that's because we generally got into general management at a very early stage.
Obviously, you know, we have a huge history and DNA of innovation, creativity, problem solving, and it really did stem from problem solving on the farm, which is fantastic, and we're renowned for that. And we punch well above our weight in terms of those ideas on an international stage. We're not short of really great ideas and ways of solving problems. We are short of being able to commercialise those organisations or ideas, or take those problems and actually make them a product that solves a customer issue. And I think that's partly because of our distance. It's a whole lot of different things. But one of the things that occurs to me is that real sort of DIY, do-it-yourself mentality is about us being individuals. It's about taking our own individual skills and applying them to solving problems.
If you wanted to develop a creative organisation, you would not go to the military, right? It's command and control all the way, because that's what they need, discipline and so on. So what we were talking about in sport, in creativity, Brian Ashton, who was the England coach, 2007, expressed it beautifully. He said, when England were on tour in New Zealand, they had all kinds of strategies in the blue zone, the red zone, and what other coloured zones coaches have now. But fundamentally, if you're in the blue zone, you're on 22, you kicked. If you were sort of halfway between whatever is between the blue and the red zone, you sort of picked and go, right? Then if you were in the red zone, the All Blacks 22, which was quite rare, you then ran with it. And Brian said the All Blacks don't think like that. They look at the pitch and they see 7,000 metres of red zone. Talking to Stuart Lancaster, he said the difference really between the English and the New Zealanders is that the English train to be perfect, New Zealanders train to win. And I said, what does that mean? He said, well, we do lots of set moves and we rehearse and we rehearse and we rehearse till we get them spot right. He said the New Zealanders train, they screw up and they continue. They don't go back and do the move again, because in the game you can't pick it up and start over. In England we pick it up till we've got the move perfect and then we drop it and we don't know what to do. New Zealand is instinctively trained to win. And creativity is a lot about that in sport, right? Training to be intuitive, training to be imaginative, training to be brave, so that when the moment comes, you take it.
What are we going to do for Rugby World Cup in Paris? Why don't we put up a billboard, come to New Zealand? That would be the first thing we should do, you know, like, where next? Why don't we make it in the shape of an oval rugby ball? Well, we could make it completely oval if we wanted to. That's another good idea. Then Mike Mizrahi said, well, we could actually put something inside it as well. Then we said, okay, well, why don't we ask the French if they'd like a creative presentation of New Zealand to add to their ceremony? And they said, but why would we want to promote your World Cup? And we said, well, we actually don't want to promote our World Cup, we want to enhance yours. And we won't charge you for all of this, which was a great way of getting us there, so they didn't charge us for anything either. We approached it on the basis of we'll keep going until we get a no. And we kept getting maybes or yeses. And so, you know, you go, well, we'll try that. Oh, maybe, they said, you know. In fact, we had this dinner at the Paris Mayor's office, and they were sort of thanking us for it. And he leant forward to his whole thing and he said, who was it that said yes to this? He was sort of lost in the midst of time. But they thoroughly enjoyed it. But You know, there was an idea, a creative idea, that was picked up and enacted. It would have been so easy to say, it'll never happen. Why not? And I think that was an example of New Zealand saying, look, why don't we just go and ask?
So I think the young Kiwis are driven to do that. Different ways, because they're interested in connectivity and collaboration and in creativity, right? A small example, at Saatchi we're fortunate because we have a very powerful brand name, very attractive, famous brand name all over the world, but particularly in the UK, Europe, you know, New Zealand, Australia. We hire a bunch of interns every year, and we had a bunch of 50 of them that get through like 200 shortlists. So we bring them all into a room about 9 weeks ago in Charlotte Street, and we said to them, okay, we're a creative company, we're an ideas company, we care about creativity, so look, here's a smartphone. First thing we did was check there were no Australians there because we wanted the smartphones back. And we said, so here's a smartphone. Now you go away and take 3 photographs that will change the world and come back same time tomorrow. They all rock off and they all come back with we're in London, these great photographs. One Kiwi kid comes in, 3 photographs of himself. And we hired him on the spot. What can you do? 3 photographs of himself. It's just amazing, right? That's true Kiwi creativity today.
When you come from a small, shallow pockets, limited resource country, you do have to improvise. I think you have to be more innovative. When you're part of a big mass corporate society with lots and lots of money, like the US, there's heaps of money that gets thrown at the tiniest idea. I think that things are easier and that people don't have to try as hard. I think we have to try harder, and I think that we really have to put our problem-solving hat on to think about how we are going to do more with less. As Lord Rutherford said, we don't have much money, so we've got to think.
We've got New Zealanders in 27 of our offices in great positions. Which other global agency has that? We have these Kiwis there because they get shit done. Okay, you go to France and they talk about it and philosophize it and discuss it. You go to England, English people don't care whether they win or lose, it's how they place the blame that turns them on. You go to America and everybody's specialized and linear like this, all driven by money or power. Kiwis haven't had any of those luxuries, right? We're poor, we're born in platform, we've been well educated, we've got role models all around us, success is all around us in the creative industries.
I was on an athletic scholarship at UCLA in the 70s, and I saw the birth of the modern aerobics boom, and I came home and brought that back to New Zealand. The traditional gym industry had been a pretty awful, boring industry, and probably, we didn't even keep stats in those days, but probably 10% of the people who joined would stick with it on a long-term basis. It was really had to be a bit of a masochist, and most people dropped out within about a month of joining. So I was looking for ways to make the industry more fun and more interesting, and make it more fun and more interesting for me as well to work in, because it was pretty boring to work in as well. But you know, we were driven by also a strong sense of purpose around that, and so we brought music and exercise and dance together, and we made things that were a lot more fun.
You know, they talk about in New Zealand, I'm sick of the term world class. It's so boring. So I think world class is very average. Right? We want to be world changing.
To be relevant in a commercial sense and to touch a lot of people, which I think is a core value for us. We really do want to change the world. We do want to touch a lot of people's lives and change the World Health System and things like that. We are driven by that. We're driven by creating things which are going to sell. For our company to grow and to do more good in the world, we've got to be commercially successful.
One of the things that we think is fantastic about New Zealand is actually our biggest challenge, and that is that it's really easy to start a small business here. So we don't actually kill them off fast enough.
To digress a wee bit, one of the problems in the public sector environment with leadership and creativity is everybody comes up through a technical perspective. It's a policy wonk or something like that, and that positions them in an area where they're really unable to think beyond their discipline, and that's a real problem. So from a New Zealand point of view, we have these generalists, which is, I think, is always played to our strengths. And when people look at us, and I find that I used to deal with a lot of international tourism boards, they always saw us as being incredibly well-rounded.
I said to him, his name was Leo, "What do you do?" He said, "I'm the commander of the SAS." I thought, wow, that's pretty good. Can you tell me some stories? Every story he told me showed imagination, innovation, battling against the odds, a creative solution to a problem where generally we had no information, not much knowledge, no scale, no time, and a small platoon of committed Kiwis. And that's what we bring.
We were doing a sort of a strategy session in LA, and we brought some what we call people with naive intelligence, and one of them was the brand manager in the US for Gap, Banana Republic, and all that sort of thing. No tourism, but asked her to take part in the strategy session. And she said at the end of it, she said, what fascinates me about you people is you actually think you can change it.
We have a reputation for having the easiest compliance environment for businesses to start. And whilst that's a fantastic thing to have, it also means that you can still be a startup after 10 years. You couldn't do that in America. You couldn't do that in Europe. You would just, you would make yourself bankrupt within the first 2. Whereas we have a way of sort of managing to live on and live our dream without actually having to build a business around it.
So I think there's tremendous naivete. We haven't got a well-developed investment sector. We haven't got a well-developed financial sector. We haven't got a well-developed global network. And we all want to come home. So when we do this, man, we would rather do Trade Me here in New Zealand, sell it for 200 million, and then live here. Thank you very much. So I do think it's a big outage and a big problem. And I'm not seeing it get better because now these kids can go away, do their OE, come back home and still be socially connected to everything they were and live here. So it's an unresolved real problem. Do we have commercial creativity? Well, in the 80s we had a different amount of commercial creativity. Let's hope that doesn't come back. But do we have commercial nous? Do we have scale? Do we have the desire to be world changing, or do we want to do it all from here? I think the answer is we all want to do it all from here, and that's pretty difficult.
We need to think cleverly about what our core strengths are as a nation, and we do need to create ways, our government has to create ways of helping creativity in this country. There are wonderful things being done at some of the universities, like the Ice House, that needs much more energy put into that sort of thing. We do need to think about where we as a country are going to allocate our scarce resources. We do need to tilt the table. Everybody else is doing it. If we don't, then sorry guys, we're going to be left behind.
4 million people at the edge of the world. If you want to win the world from the edge, or if you win anything from here, you've got to be creative, because all the big players have already submerged us with scale. So we're not going to scale our way out of this.
We'll keep going until we get a no.
So what do we take from all this? It seems that as generalists we're very good at having ideas and inventing things, but we're not so good at innovation. We're not so good at implementing those ideas into scalable businesses that create jobs. We don't have a mortgage on intelligence or creativity, and we certainly don't have the resources that many other countries do. But what we do have is attitude. We have a certain cultural fearlessness, commented on by a number of the interviewees. It seems that because we live in a country with no natural predators, we don't know what to be afraid of. So we approach things with a can-do attitude. It's an absence of fear. We'll give it a go despite the odds. It seems in our optimistic naivety, we're prepared to keep going until, as George Hecton observed, someone says no. It's this attitude that'll help us resolve the paradox. We need to put our creativity to the test in marketing as well as in research. And we need to leverage our partnerships and develop our networks. They'll help us commercialise our ideas and take them to the world.